Last time I explained everything about bows, so now let's tackle the crossbows. Yet again, this probably is going to be a long video. Some concepts work identically to the bow, but some new features make crossbows much more different than the bows. Unlike bow, crossbow is an easy difficulty skill. By default it has no specialties, but GURPS High-Tech introduces the spear gun specialty. It's probably irrelevant on low TLs. Before we take a look at the weapon table, I have to explain the concept of rated strength again, because things work slightly differently for crossbows. Each crossbow has rated strength that determines its range and damage. It's not the same as the minimum strength requirement you can see on the table. This strength requirement determines the minimum rated strength for this crossbow model, and strength required to aim and shoot it properly. The maximum rated strength for a crossbow model equals to this requirement multiplied by 3. So even though damage is listed as modified thrust damage value and range is given in multiples of strength, you do not actually use your strength value to determine them, you use the strength of the crossbow instead. The crossbow strength does not affect its weight or weight of ammunition. Rated strength assumes a crossbow braced against the shoulder while drawing the string two-handed. Drawing a crossbow two-handed this way takes 2 seconds. Readying and placing a bolt takes 2 seconds. Shooting takes a second. Typically, crossbows are lowered to the ground, braced with a foot in a stirrup, or with one or both feet on the bow, and drawn by straightening up. This uses the strength of the entire body, which allows drawing the crossbow with 10 to 20% higher rated strength with one leg or 20 to 30% higher strength with both legs. The stirrup appears at TL3, costs $50 and weighs 2 pounds. A leg-powered crossbow takes 3 seconds to draw, plus 2 seconds to crouch and place a foot in a stirrup. Ammo readying and shooting times do not change. A similar TL3 alternative is the belt hook. Instead of bending, the crossbowman kneels, catches the string on the belt hook and stands up, drawing the string. These 3 steps take 1 second, 2 seconds and 2 seconds, a total of 5 seconds. It increases the user's effective strength by 10 to 20%. A belt hook costs $25 and has a negligible weight. Another TL3 cocking mechanism is the god's foot. A fork-like lever is braced against the crossbow stock. 2 hooks extending out from the fork engage the string. Pulling back the fork's handle draws the string back. Using it takes 20 seconds. It increases the user's effective strength by 30 to 40%. A god's foot costs $50 and weighs 2 pounds. Finally, there is the detachable windlass. It takes 5 seconds to attach it to the weapon in the first place. Several models exist, each with its own specific ratio of draw time and strength. I will show it on the screen. I haven't edited the video yet, but it will be there. At TL4, the Crane Queen appears. Costs the same as the windlass, with the same strength multiplier, weighs half as much, and takes twice as long to use. Still requires 5 seconds to attach initially. Unlike bows, crossbows use arm strength and lifting strength for the purpose of being cocked. I should also mention the crossbow finesse perk that appears in many places. This one lets you increase your effective strength for the purpose of cocking the crossbow if your crossbow skill is high enough. If you are playing a crossbowman, you really should take it, it's very good. Here's something that works differently for crossbows. Even though you cannot draw a crossbow that's too strong for you, you can ask your stronger friend to do it for you. You'll still be able to shoot with no problem. Now, finally, let's take a look at the weapon table in GURPS Low-Tech. The first crossbows appear at TL2, and the first crossbow on the table is just the crossbow. There are no special rules, but it gives us a good baseline. Good damage, high accuracy, good range, moderately heavy weight, a moderate cost and minimum strength of 7. So the maximum rated strength for the normal crossbow is 21. Then we have the Gastrophetes, or I do not know how to pronounce it. It deals more damage, has longer range, but is heavier and very expensive. It has a unique built-in cocking mechanism, the belly brace. A long slider is pushed out the front of the weapon. A claw at the end engages the string, and then the user leans into a curved stock, forcing back the slider. It increases the user's effective strength by 30%. A typical Gastrophetes has rated strength 13, so a strength 10 warrior should be able to draw it. Takes 2 seconds to prepare the slider, 2 seconds to lift, and 2 seconds to cock, plus 2 more seconds to draw and place the bolt. Its ammunition is heavier than normal, but it seems that it costs the same, or something is missing. The last TL2 crossbow is the repeating crossbow. It deals much lower damage, is much less accurate, and range is much shorter. It's also heavier and costs more than the normal crossbow. The catch is that it allows a much higher rate of fire. It has an ammunition hopper that holds 10 bolts. It's operated by working a handle backward and forward manually. The shooter must take a ready maneuver before each shot. A repeating crossbow takes a second to cycle and a second to shoot. Bolt placement is automatic. The description of the repeating crossbow says that its rated strength cannot exceed the user's strength. The box that describes rated strength says that the maximum rated strength is 70% of the user's strength. The box is probably correct. At Tier 3 we get in more crossbows. The first one is a composite crossbow. It deals better damage than the normal one, has longer range but is slightly heavier and significantly more expensive. No special rules. The next one is the pistol crossbow. Damage is lower, accuracy is lower, range is shorter, weight is lower, but it costs the same as a standard crossbow. However, it has a pistol grip, so it requires 2 hands to ready but only 1 to fire. Next up is the prod, sometimes spelled with a single D. Instead of bolts, it launches lead pellets that deal piercing damage. Special prods exist that lob primitive naphtha grenades or flasks with alchemical liquids. These have accuracy 1 and range 5 times the rated strength, and they cannot shoot normal pellets. The last TL3 crossbow is the slur bow. This is a composite crossbow with an unusual arrow guide, built in that can be loaded with 1 small dart or several. Statistics on the table are given for 2 medium-sized darts and 5 smaller ones. All TL4 crossbows are made of steel. They are sturdier and heavier, and they allow for high rated strength. However, they are less efficient. Use half the rated strength to determine range and damage. Typical values: strength 15 for fowling crossbow, strength 20 for hunting crossbow, strength 30 for military crossbow, and strength 36 for siege crossbow. Usually they are cocked with a crane queen. The siege crossbow also requires a tripod that costs $360 and weighs 19 pounds. But wait, there's more. GURPS Low Tech has another table with crossbows, on page 83. These are personal artillery weapons, ballistae and scorpions, light enough to serve as personal weapons. Unlike the custom-built previous crossbows, these ones are standardized, so they have static damage and range values. They list 2 strength values. The first strength listed is that needed to aim and shoot the weapon effectively. The second, in brackets, is the mechanism's rated strength. If this exceeds 10, only use it when pulling back the string by hand. Reduce it to 10 when cranking the weapon. Ammunition cost is different. Bolts cost $33 per pound. Lead bullets cost $1.6 per pound. Stones cost $1 per pound. Lead bullets for ballistae give +1 to damage and make damage type large piercing for 0.03 pound and 0.06 pound models, or huge piercing for larger ones. Gadgeteers might lob other hard spheroids of a suitable weight, such as chemical-filled glass balls from ballistae. Ballistae and scorpions have an aiming problem. These weapons typically have a narrow field of view between the springs. Seeing through this to aim is difficult. Before taking an aim maneuver with this weapon, the operator must take a second to make a vision roll to acquire the target. The following modifiers are applied: a basic +10, target's size modifier, range penalties, all of which can be offset by taking extra time. The Cairo Ballistra is an improved design that does not have this flaw and lets you aim normally. Harsh realism for ranged weapons, on page 75 of GURPS Low-Tech, suggests giving cheap crossbow a malfunction value and to have the accuracy of all crossbows, rounding it down. GURPS Low-Tech Companion 2 has DR and HP values for the crossbows, plus it has rules for cutting the cords with a well-aimed attack. Let's explore the ammunition choices. A normal crossbow bolt that deals impaling damage costs $2. A dart for a pistol crossbow costs $1. A dart for a slur bow costs $0.50. A lead pellet for a prod costs $0.1. A Tier 3 and higher bolts may have armor-piercing bodkin points. This changes damage from impaling to piercing and adds an armor divisor of 2, but does not affect cost or weight. On page 73 of GURPS Low-Tech you can find more variant ammunition: barbed bolts, blunt bolts, cutting bolts, barbed cutting bolts, fire bolts, fire cage bolts, flight bolts, and humming bulb bolts. This selection of ammunition makes crossbow significantly more versatile. If you remember my video on knives, you probably remember that crossbow bolts can be used in melee with the knife skill. Also remember that ammunition is quite cheap. You can apply fine or very fine quality modifiers to get +1 or +2 to damage. Also, you can have balanced bows that give +1 to skill, and a balanced crossbow that gets +1 to accuracy. Pyramid 326 has rules for using crossbows underwater, but some of them were reprinted in GURPS Martial Arts Earth Fighting Styles and GURPS Fantasy Folk Elves. Normal crossbows and bolts cannot be used at all, unless made of waterproof materials or properly enchanted. Ranges are divided by 10 and damage is halved. Shots through the water surface also suffer from refraction across the boundary, add a -4 penalty to hit. Pyramid 4.4 suggests treating waterproof materials as a quality modifier that doubles the price. If you'd like to design your own crossbow, you can use the Deadly Spring, an article from Pyramid 333. I guess for the sake of completionism, I have to mention that GURPS High-Tech has compound crossbows. And that's finally it. As you can see, crossbows are complicated in GURPS, and the fact that rules are spread out across different pages does not help at all. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.